Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Orange Report with Kira Davis, giving you all the news and views you can use from across California, Orange County, and America, because California news is America news. And I want to thank everybody for all of your condolences and well wishes as we, navigated the death of my mother-in-law. We had her funeral, her first funeral. This woman was so beloved. We've got to have two. So we had our first funeral this weekend, and of course it was full of sadness, and we really miss her, but it was really nice to be together. And I know that my father-in-law, Victor, thanks all of you as well for your prayers and well wishes. And I just want to say before we get into the news that it really was a deep honor for me to eulogize my mother-in-law. I was asked to deliver the eulogy, and I'll do it again in our second celebration in July, which we'll do in the Midwest where they're from. And it was just the deepest honor of my life. My sister-in-law cared for our mother, my mother-in-law, her mother, in her final days. She's a nurse and she cared for them. And I also wanted to say thank you to my sister-in-law, Cherry, who just took such good care of her mother. And so it's a little thing to deliver a eulogy in the face of such great and kind care. But it's the one thing I can do. And so again, I just want to say thank you to everybody who sent your condolences and well wishes. Okay, let's get going today, though. We've got a lot to cover. UFC on the front lawn of the White House last night. I have a lot of California news I want to talk about today, but we've got to start off with UFC. Now, admittedly, I am not a UFC fan. I'm not a huge fan of, ring sports, period. I used to be a huge boxing fan, and unfortunately, the industry just collapsed in the late 90s, and it's never really recovered. And so I never really switched. My husband sort of switched over to UFC, which is what I think a lot of American boxing fans ended up doing after the era of Holyfield and Tyson ended. And so it seems like a natural progression to move over to UFC, but I just have never gotten there. However, I appreciate it for what it is. That, I love me some Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan loves him some UFC. So it must be pretty great. Just not my thing. So I didn't tune in for it, but I did, watch some of the clips. I wanted to, stay up to date on what was going on, with the ceremonies and how the people were looking at it and what they were doing. And it was it seemed like a really amazing patriotic event. I just want to play for you. Let's do clip number one, Scott. I just want to play for you the national anthem and the flyover as they prepared for this UFC fight. And let's just play that clip. Just like, I feel like he's all of us. That's what I would have been doing. Standing next to, can you imagine standing next to the president on the White House balcony, overlooking UFC, which you are responsible for UFC, overlooking a UFC fight on the White House lawn, a flyover in the Zac Brown band delivering the anthem. Does it get any better than that? Dana White is all of us in that moment. Get a little teary-eyed. That was absolutely stunning and beautiful. And I want to talk about for just a minute, because I have some California news to get to, but I want to talk about what that meant. Because I understand that a lot of people, conservatives and liberals alike, were very upset at the erection of this giant UFC arena in the backyard of the White House. And there was a lot of criticism for it, and, a lot going on in front of the Lincoln Memorial, fight setups, fight promos, all that stuff. And people said, this is debasing, our nation's capital. It's inappropriate. It feels garish. It feels wrong. And I don't want to insult, actually, anybody who thinks that. I think that's a fair response, because it is quite jarring to see all of that in front, or as it were, behind the White House. But I see this a little differently. Well, first of all, let me point out that for a few years, the Black Lives Matter crowd destroyed all of Washington, D.C., and none of y'all had a word to say about it. Some conservatives did, of course, but no one on the left was like, this is a disgrace. You shouldn't treat our nation's capital like this. Shouldn't burn down St. John's Church. You shouldn't graffiti the Lincoln Memorial. Y'all had nothing to say about the graffiti at the Lincoln Memorial until the president cleaned it up. It's been graffitied for years. Y'all had nothing to say about the absolute degradation of the reflecting pool on the mall. How disgusting. It's been disgusting since I was a kid living in Washington, D.C. A lot of you may know I was partially raised in Washington, D.C. My father lived there. And as a teenager, I went to school there, and I spent a lot of time. We lived on Capitol Hill. I spent a lot of time roaming around the mall, roaming around the Smithsonian. It was dirty then. A lot of people just didn't have energy for it. But this somehow is garish. I get it. It feels like, as Hunter Biden said, he's running, by the way. Hunter Biden said on some interview, probably with dumb old Gavin Newsom, he said recently, he said it's bread and circus. It's bread and circus. I'll just make sure there we go. He said bread and circuses, and that's what it feels like, right? Or like we've always been trained to believe that as soon as the government starts hosting some kind of games or entertainment, that's the government trying to distract us. Sometimes it is. But a lot of times, well, in this country anyway, sometimes it's just patriotism. That's all it is. It's just patriotism. And I think the reaction, here's what I think. On the left and the right, it's the same type of people who are saying they have a problem with this. It's elitist. And this is what I have been saying. I said this last week on I think the last episode, but this is not left versus right. The battle we're seeing in this country right now, it's not left versus right. It's not black versus white. It's not immigrants or illegal immigrants versus citizens. It's not that. It's the elites versus the people. And I think it is the elitists who looked at that and said, I think this is garish. And President Trump's birthday happens to be Flag Day. And so they were saying, well, he likes UFC, and so he did that. Yeah, so it's his birthday, and he lives in the White House. And he wanted to see a UFC fight. So, he put on a fight in his backyard. Why shouldn't the president do something that he really likes for his birthday? He doesn't even take a salary. He doesn't even take a salary from the American people. His entire salary as president of the United States is donated back to the American people. It just goes back into the coffers. So I think if the president, by the way, he funded a lot of that. That's the other thing. This is the great thing about having a rich president. He doesn't need to take bribes from anybody. He doesn't need your money. So he's not like Obama, who went in, with a net worth of $1 million and left with a net worth of like $60 million. He's not making money from this office. He's actually giving money to this office. So there's that. But let me tell you something about the backyard UFC fight. That's America. And when President Trump took office for the second time, he said, America first. And you can sum up everything that the president does in that phrase, everything that his cabinet does with that phrase, America first. And so when the president took office again, he saw that there were a whole group of elitists who had co-opted the idea of America and tried to tell us what America is, what it's supposed to be. And guess what? Most of what they said America is, you're not included in. If you're blue collar, if you're a Christian, if you're a nuclear family, if you believe in traditional Christian religious values in this country, if you believe that America is the best country on earth, if you believe that America should be for Americans, if you believe that your hard work should pay off and the government is there to protect your rights, not bestow your rights to you, if you believe that your greatest responsibilities are to your God first, then your family, and then your country, they told you America wasn't for you. America is for them. to do whatever they want. And President Trump has said over and over again, it's America first. I started this podcast by saying, I used to be a boxing fan, and the height of the boxing glory days was the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe. It was on the decline already then. But if this had come then, we would have had a boxing match in the backyard. But it's UFC because UFC is so uniquely and wholly American. Not only that, it's masculine and aggressive. I want you to recall the president meeting with the Russian leader, Putin. Is he prime minister or president? I have both there, and I always get him confused. With Putin, though, he met with Putin some months ago, and what did he arrange when Putin got off that flight in Alaska? A flyover. Why do presidents do this? Just like he had that military parade, everyone, y'all forgot about the military parade already last year. You had the military parade. Why do leaders do this? Male leaders. Women don't do this typically. Because it's a show of might. It's a show of strength. There's value in that. Of course, the elitists are uncomfortable with that. They don't know how to use guns. They don't know how to, they don't know how to fight. They don't know how to protect themselves physically. It scares them to think that you do. So they don't like anything that looks like might. Might doesn't look right to them. Let's see, we got a comment here. Hey, David, thank you. California created the UFC, the Grassi family, Brazilian immigrants. Very good, the Grassis, yes. My own son was in Grassi Vara jiu-jitsu for a while. Very popular here in California. Great comment. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. It is a very Californian thing. Absolutely. And but it's just so, it is, the UFC is such an American tradition right now. Again, like I said, it would have been boxing if it had been early 2000s. This is where we've all matriculated, and for good reason, but it's a show of strength. It's a show of masculinity. And of course, the left is uncomfortable with that. But what are you, more than that, what are you, the average American, watching on a Saturday night or on a weekend? The average American is watching wrestling, UFC, or some athletic event, basketball, hockey, football, something aggressive. That's the American spirit. The backyard fights. I saw this, I saw a great little Instagram video earlier. This guy was like, look, what do dudes do? They have backyard fights. Why is the UFC in the backyard? Because that's where you have a backyard fight. You fight in your backyard. That's what UFC is. It's very American. The whole idea of men, taking off their shirts, getting into a ring. And it's American for us. I'm not saying they don't do it other places. I'm just saying here in America, we really like it. And so the president is saying, this is why they hate it. This is why they hate him. Because he's not saying, I'm doing this for you, elitists, which is what Joe Biden did, right? When he turned the White House into a circus. When he was celebrating America's birthday, he invited in drag queens and strippers, trans performers to degrade and pervert the White House grounds. That wasn't for regular America, because even if you think, hey, a lot of Americans support whatever gay rights, as if that display had anything to do with gay rights. But you might want to say a lot of Americans support gay rights, it's still not enough to make it an American thing. That's what the gay people are always telling us, right? We're such a small minority. Why are you worrying about us? Or we're such a small minority. Why don't you protect us more? So we already know they're the minority. So that's not a program for America. Well, we saw UFC, a program for America. Anthem delivered by the Zac Brown Band. Flyover of our greatest machines. Flown by some of our greatest men. Aggression, power, and celebration. Oh, and there was that comment. Again, I didn't watch it. I saw it played later in the clip, but the one fighter who took the opportunity to shout, Michelle Obama is a man. I think I was supposed to be upset with that. I think I was supposed to think that that was classless, but again, a very American, right? Like we're the people that go around calling each other idiots and retards and like just very American. And, I'm not going to take offense to that. For every Democrat that has ever stood on the stage of the American people, be it at the White House, be it in the press room, be it at some American celebration, and took that opportunity to insult Americans or insult President Trump, call him a Nazi, call him a dictator, call him a racist, call him out his very name. No, I'm sorry, I don't. And that was a citizen. That guy was just a regular guy. I mean, not a regular guy because he's a UFC fighter, but you know what I mean? He wasn't like a politician or anything. So he can say what he wants. I guess it would be different if, I suppose, Marco Rubio stood in the middle of that ring and said, Michelle Obama is a man, but he can say what he wants. And guess what? Turns out a lot of Americans agree with him. I don't think I do, but I certainly don't mind anybody expressing their opinion that she is, or even trying to make a joke. I don't know if he was just trying to be funny. I have no idea. I'm not offended by it. I don't really care. I'll say that. I don't really care. And the idea that we're supposed to have some kind of decorum, as long as the left wing is losing their minds every single day over every single thing, we cannot have decorum. Forget decorum. We just have to win. We just have to dominate. We have to be, America first has to be the dominant culture in America. And then we'll win. And then all this other stuff will even out. And that is what President Trump is doing. So anytime you see stuff like that and you're like, I don't know, this looks a little garish. I'm not. It's America first. America most. America best. We are dedicated to showing the world that we're the greatest place to be, the greatest place to live. I know you guys have seen so much going on TikTok and Instagram and all social media about all the Europeans here in our country for the World Cup, the soccer World Cup. And they're just blown away. Now, I think a lot of it's clickbait, if you ask me, because Americans love to share good things about their country, and people are starting to realize that. But even like I saw one guy making a post about trucks, just delivery trucks in the city. The European mind cannot understand. Even still, for whatever is the clickbait, there's still a lot of awe coming from our European neighbors who are coming over here to see how we live and what we do, because they hear so much propaganda about us and they're never allowed to hear anything else. And so to experience it themselves, they're blown away. And that's how it should be. You should come here and go, oh my gosh, this is nothing like I thought it would be. This is better than I ever thought. It reminds me of some of you watching might be too young. I have an older crowd, so I doubt it. But some of you watching might be too young to remember the Cold War era and how you weren't allowed to travel to Russia at that time. It was the Soviet Union. Much like Cuba today, we had an embargo, no American travel, and they certainly weren't allowed to come over here. And they had a full media blackout over there, and they were always told that the Americans were the enemy, that they were awful, horrible people, that their people were starving, their people were poor. That's how the Russians framed America, and they had no outside sources, so they believed what the state told them. Well, then I think it would have been right before the Berlin Wall came down. So as we were starting this march towards toppling communism in the Eastern Bloc, Boris Yeltsin, the Soviet president, made a trip, and it was a historic trip. He made a trip over to the United States, and he stopped at a grocery store. And you can find this picture online. You find a picture of Boris Yeltsin pointing at the freezer section, all the selection. The president of Russia looking at all that product going, wow, he couldn't believe it. And ladies and gentlemen, that is when communism began to tumble. Yes, we had other great, motivators like Ronald Reagan. We had the nuclear arms race. We basically bankrupted the Soviets with that arms race. We had the Pope, Pope John Paul, who was very instrumental in standing up for liberty in Eastern Europe. We had all of that, but it really began when the Russian people got to see, because their president went, so then the media went with him, right? And then they got to see how Americans live, and they went, oh, we want to live like that. We shouldn't have to live like this. This is why they always want to shut down your social media. In places like the UK, I cannot believe what's happening in the UK. It's absolutely astounding. They're going to shut down social media. They're already arresting people. I think there are 1,300 people in prison right now in the UK for social media posts. But this is why they want to shut it down, because if you can see liberty, you're going to want it. And they don't want you to want it. So this is America first. Let's check in though on how the counterculture protests went. I think that's number 2, Scott. So the usual suspects decided they weren't going to let President Trump get away with celebrating America. They were going to have their own celebration of real America. And so Bette Midler, I don't know if you remember her. I'm a huge Bette Midler fan, by the way, but she's gone off her rocker as well. Too much money and too much time, I think. And they decided to have a counter concert to counter Trump's garish, horrible display of authoritarianism and Nazism. And this is what they came up with. Let's just play this clip and then I'll talk about it.
Because no one is getting left behind this time. No one is getting left behind. Not this time. No one is getting left behind this time. How do we get there? Together or never get there at all. Because no one is getting
left. No, stop that. Hurry up. Oh. I hardly know what to say. I think one of the things that's blowing my mind about that clip is that I'm now 51. I was in my 30s when I started in this business, and I came in on the Breitbart era. So it's Andrew Breitbart who really gave us the conservative new media movement. Of course, Rush Limbaugh is the radio god. All praise to Rush Limbaugh. But the new media movement started with Andrew Breitbart, who, of course, was inspired by Rush Limbaugh. And so when we started that, there really wasn't a huge, not the conservative media the way you see it now didn't exist. Part of our problem is we weren't very cool. We weren't very cool. 20 years ago, what you just saw was us. We, our boomer sing-alongs, great patriotic people, not to insult anybody, but just there was nothing of interest for anyone under 50. And we weren't plugged into the culture, and everything we did and said seemed dorky. And I wrote article after article at that time about embracing the arts, embracing filmmaking, embracing music, and really funding those things as conservatives and supporting the things that we like to see. And how everything that we put our stamp on just became conservative messaging, and it was weird and gross, and I didn't like it. And that's where we were 20 years ago. And the left had all the coolest people, the coolest rappers, the coolest actors, coolest art, the most interesting things they were doing. When they would put on their conventions, they would have great acts and lots of cool stuff. And we would have, like, again, no offense, but like, just some 40-year-old country music artists. It was hard to find people to come anyways. And now we're here. The script has totally flipped. Ask yourself, if you're a 21-year-old male interested in politics for some reason, and you get 2 invitations, one to that liberal Democrat, I think they called it Rise Up America counter protest concert, and the other to the UFC fight on the White House lawn. Which one are you taking? Right? I couldn't believe what I saw. And then they brought out celebrity after celebrity after celebrity as if they have not learned their lesson. Julia Roberts was there, Robert De Niro. I watched more of that than I did of the UFC fight. Again, just because I'm not into UFC stuff. But I was curious about the freak show on the left. So I watched more of that. They had Bette Midler, Robert De Niro, Julia Roberts. They had a bunch of singers. Did I say Jane Fonda? Jane Fonda was up there. Who else did I see? I can't remember who else I saw, but all the celebrities or people you never see. I never see Julia Roberts out there saying stuff. Never. I thought that was kind of crazy to see her. And it was in a concert hall, so it was an enclosed space. But it was clear that the crowd was older. There wasn't a whole lot of enthusiasm, enough, but nothing like the UFC fight on the White House lawn. And it was weird. It was weird and stiff and angry. And you have people like Robert De Niro talking about how President Trump doesn't care about how Americans are suffering, doesn't care about the finances of America. He brought up that quote, Trump saying the other day, somebody asked him, well, what do you have to say about the price of gas and things are going up for Americans? What are you going to do, with this war in Iran? And he said, look, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about doing what's right. I have to do what's right. The left took that to mean I don't care about Americans. No, what he's saying is like success will bring us unity, right? So we have success overseas. When that's completed and we've done the right thing for the world, we're going to see the benefits of that. But of course, they took that to mean something else. But it's really insulting to see guys like Robert De Niro up to millionaires, men who have lived behind golden gates for decades, for most of his life now. Julia Roberts, most of her life now. These people, Jane Fonda, her whole life, she was born into Hollywood royalty, right? That's their family business. She's never had to pay for gas, right? She's probably never paid her own electric bill in her whole life. She probably doesn't know what it is, what it looks like. These people standing up there and saying that Trump doesn't care about regular Americans when he's having the most regular American thing on the lawn of the White House. It's insulting because they don't care and they don't know that they care so little they don't even know you're suffering. They think you're not suffering. And so they think that President Trump is causing suffering. They haven't deigned to look down on you and see your suffering. You would think they would have learned by now from Kamala Harris's disastrous celebrity-laden event. America is done with the celebrity class right now. We're done with them. And they haven't caught on. Frankly, bring it on. More of this, please, because the more they do that stuff, the more ridiculous they look. America first. So you watch the UFC fight, you watch the America Rise Up or whatever the hell they were calling it, and you tell me which one was America first. Which people would you have the best time with? I'm utterly stunned by that display. I am utterly stunned at how quickly the Hollywood left has fallen. And it happens fast, everybody. And let me tell you, this is why you never give up. You never stop talking. You never stop fighting for what is right. You never stop talking about what is right because you never quit because you never know. You might be quitting when the victory is right in front of you. You don't know how fast these things can happen, how quickly a culture can change. This changed almost overnight. So you never give up and you always go on record. I tell this to people all the time. I don't care. I don't care if there's 100 people watching this on X right now. I don't care. Go on record. The record matters. And then down the road, someone might reach back to what you said and be like, oh, you know what? Kira was talking about that 2 years ago, 3 years ago. No one cared about it then, but, this is on the record now that this has been going on for a while. So always be on the record. Don't care about who's going to see it, who's not going to see it, how many people watch it. I have never been, a super famous podcaster, never. I have a steady audience, I have a steady outflow. I have never been. But you know what? You always see my clips around. You always see me on the news. Why? I'm always on the record. Just always go on the record. Don't worry about who's going to see it. If this is your business, if you're an influencer and you need clicks and stuff, all right, fine, I get that. But that's how you turn into Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly. You're going to chase the clicks down, right? There are some people who just do this as just a job, just to make money. And there are some people who do this because they want to change America and they want to save America. I'm the latter. And it's been nice to make a living while I do it. Okay, let's move on a little bit here. Talk about God bless America, by the way. We got a lot more going on. I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. for the 4th of July. If you're going to be there, hit me up. Like, let's meet up on the mall. We're going to go to America's World Fair or the America Fair or whatever they're calling it. We're going to be there. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to be in D.C. for a few days over the 4th holiday, and we're really looking forward to that. So, like, hit me up. Maybe we can do a meetup or something if there's going to be more people there. All right. Switching gears, I want to move to California, and let's see. Let's cue up clip number 3. All right, this is a local politician. If you're not from Orange County, let me explain to you the clip you're going to see. This is Vice Mayor James Mai. He is the vice mayor of Irvine. Now, I need you to know what a big deal that is, because Irvine is a heavily Asian community. We actually have a lot of illegal Asians there. And it's very Democrat as a result. And James Mai is a Republican. So he ran on just being of service to the community. He is a great servant of the community. He runs like a youth club. He does food collection for the food banks. Like, he's a really great guy, a pretty amazing guy. And he won just on being an authentic community servant. And he was able to be elected in this heavily Democrat area. He serves now as the vice mayor of Irvine, which is a hugely influential city, very wealthy city here in South Orange County. Now, they are going through their budget process, and the Irvine City Council has decided, well, we're a little bit cash strapped. And because in California, we can't raise taxes unless the people vote for it, because that's what we had to do. This is what pure democracy looks like, people. You can't depend on your representatives to do the representing for you. So then you got to go and get a constitutional amendment that says only the people can vote to raise their own taxes. And then you get to where we are now, which is, huge corruption in our electoral system, because then we never want to raise taxes because it's so expensive, and all they ever want to do is raise taxes to fix things. And so what do they do to raise taxes? They find other ways to do it. They either raise fees, they're basically taxes, but they call them fees, or they cheat. Just like the Measure ER in Los Angeles, which was soundly, roundly defeated on election night, coming in at 53% of the votes. That's trending that should have been called that night. That's a trend to be called that night, but they didn't call it, just like they didn't call the Spencer Pratt race. And when you know, somehow, all of a sudden, it flipped, and the yes votes are winning. So somehow in Los Angeles, people felt like life wasn't expensive enough, and so they raised their own taxes somehow. So James Mai the Irvine City Council is now looking, they can't raise taxes, so now they're going to institute new fees. They need new fees. The city is in a deficit, yada, yada, yada. You've heard it all before. I wanted to play this for you because this is one vice mayor in one town in California, but this needs to be everywhere. We need to replicate this guy, replicate this speech. As far as I'm concerned, every Republican politician should be giving this same speech when it comes to spending money, when it comes to asking the people for more of their money. All right, let's go ahead and play this.
As well, and regarding budgeting, regarding our budget on City Council, we're in the black as well, and very committed to reducing our spend, which is pretty fiscally conservative. Thanks for the report. Thanks for all the information here. I mean, I love to hear that we have our reserves are $1.7 billion in our investment fund. We have reserves. One of the things I have to tell you, just from my first initial comments, are we had an issue last meeting. We had an issue about potential taxes that were going to go on to residents. This report, this mid-cycle report here, it talks about increasing fees. We didn't want to tax residents. No taxes, no new taxes. Let's not explore that. So instead, what I'm hearing now, because we don't hear the full picture about the cuts that we need to do, we just hear about increasing fees. So what I'm hearing, and what from just a layman's point of view, is that we're not going to tax, we're not going to explore any new taxes. We're just going to increase fees across the board to make up for our lack of control in spending and salaries. That's not what we asked for. We asked for a motion. We had a motion here for August to address all of it in one package. Taxes are not in there, but we asked in August to come back with potential increased revenue, potential cuts all in one so we can take a look at the entire thing. This is a piecemealed presentation here. I don't see anything about cutting expenditures. I hear it right now. I just heard it from Sean. I hear of it. I don't hear about it in your report. If you're going to give a report, even a basic one, so that people know the first line or first response to a deficit potential is one-time funds. What are we going to do in the future? One-time funds to address this deficit, and increases across the board from all usage fees. That's not the initial go-to for anyone. I'm not for that, not for taxes, not for let's increase and punish the people for our lack of control. I said that, I'll say that twice. We have a lack of control and we need to address that. But that's it for now. I'm gonna hear from the public and anyone else, but that's just my thoughts on it. I find it a little inappropriate because we don't have the full picture. We just have, let's increase fees and let's punish residents.
I feel like we have some clapter in here in the media tab. I want everybody to see this, okay? This is Orange County News. This is Orange County News, but everybody should see this and everybody should demand this. And this is what I always tell you. If you don't know how to start, learning about what's going on in your own community and how to hold your politicians accountable, particularly your local, you got to start local because those people matriculate up. You can't start at the top. This is a bottom up problem, not a top down. So you have to start locally. And if you want to know where to start, just pick a meeting and go to it. Like literally any meeting. And that's why I like to show you these meetings. It'll change you. And I promise you, it could be any meeting in government. It will change you. Go to one. That is who you should see at your city council meetings. You should see a guy like James Mai, who is saying our first solution should never be to punish the people for a lack of income into our coffers. Whenever we see that we have a budget deficit or wherever we see that we are in financial distress as government, as a governing body, our first question, this is what James is saying, and you should hear this from every city council in America. Our first question should not be how much more money can we get from the people? The first question should be, what can we cut to balance our sheets? When is the last time you ever saw or heard your local government cutting? And I get it, because every time they mention the word cut, then there's a million protesters who come and go, you can't cut, my kid will starve if he can't get 3 meals a day for free at school. But those people they're not us, right? A lot of those people are paid agitators, to be honest, at this point. A lot of those people are paid agitators. They're not the community. That should be normal, what he said. That should be normal. The approach to government spending issues or income issues should be, what can we cut to deliver to the people what we promised? And if we have to cut some services, then we have to cut some services. But people, let me tell you this, they always start with the services. They don't have to. Do you know how much waste is in our government? Even in your local government, they don't have to start with your gym teachers and your art teachers and your youth programs. They don't have to. They choose to do that because the misery is the point. They want to deliver you maximum misery so you'll come and complain and be like, oh my gosh, we need this money. My kids can't go play in the playground. Well, no, why don't you this is what he said that too. Why don't we explore what we can cut? Even our salaries, even the people, why don't we explore? No, you don't need the city council gym membership. I don't understand why city employees get city cars to drive. I don't understand why city employees get to gas up at the city pump. You don't. You've been asking for gas tax relief for years now. We're getting another gas tax, another raise in the gas tax on July 1st. 2 cents. That's the result of the Prop 6, which they lied to us about, tricked the people into voting for it. And now over 10 years, we get to see an increase in our gas taxes every summer. I don't think city employees should then fill up at the pump on our dime, and they won't give us any gas tax relief. No, I don't. And they can cut any of that. City employees can get to work the way the rest of us get to work. And then maybe if they drive their own damn streets, they'll see what a shit show it is every single day. There's so much you can cut on every level. My school district, I think I talked about this online, my school district, Capital Unified, they just put an agenda item and they're discussing it. I don't think they've put an advertisement out for it yet, but they're discussing hiring a social media director for $189,000 a year. $189,000 a year starting salary for a social media director. Now I get it. Southern California, our average income is going to look ridiculous to the average American because it's based a lot on the cost of living. So I get it. Some of this is just, you make more money here because you spend more money. But the superintendent, I think, makes less than, I think he makes $260 maybe a year or $280, which I don't find that to be actually totally out of pocket. I know that sounds like it is a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but the superintendent is over a lot of schools in Orange County. That's a lot of schools. That's a lot of school district. We're the second largest district in the state. So I have some issues with it, but there's justifications to be made. I think it's crazy then that you would hire a social media director who's almost on parity with your superintendent. Right? But they want to do that for $189,000 a year, a job that can be done for a quarter of that. For it seems what they're asking, I actually think what they're asking for is something different, and they're hiding it under the label of social media director, but that's another story for another day. But I was in a meeting mere months ago where the gym teachers and the art teachers came in full force, and they stood in front of that school board and they begged for their programs. They begged for their jobs because those things are getting cut because the school district has lost 12,000 students over the last 4 years. I think it's more, but the official number is 12,000, and they're hemorrhaging money. And they're cutting the arts, and they're cutting gym. They're cutting the teachers. Even now, it's like a lot of our arts, they don't have a classroom in a school. They travel. The art teachers in Capital Unified, a lot of them, they travel from school to school. They don't have their own dedicated position. That's how few of them there are. That's how little we fund it now. They were standing up begging for their positions, and the school district is going to spend $190,000 a year on a person to post memes. You see what I mean? The misery is the point. They cut the gym teachers and the art teachers because they know you love them. And they know you want them and need them. And so when they go, then you're going to get upset and you're going to go, no, we can't do this. We need more money. When the real question should be, what can we cut out of the main office, out of the administrative sector, so we can keep the teachers, which is literally the whole freaking point of public education is the teachers. So what can we cut from the administrative section so that the teachers can continue to do what is literally their job, which is to teach? You never hear them asking those questions. As far as I'm concerned, if you have elected a local Republican as a local politician, that's especially in a blue area, right? In a blue state like California, where Republicans don't have a lot of power. And I say this to our school board all the time, I do not think they are aggressive enough. I don't think they want to be. I don't think they care. I don't think they know what time it is. But I say this all the time because whenever I hear from them, they say, you don't know what we're doing. We're doing stuff behind the scenes. We have a Republican school board. We flipped that board. You guys remember I ran in 22 to flip it. Didn't do it. I lost. But then the woman who ran after me, very nice woman, she won. And she was a part of that that class to flip the board. And we were like, great, now we can finally get to work on this stuff. And they have so far done nothing that we've asked. And when we approach them, they say, well, we're doing stuff behind the scenes. You don't understand what we're up against. And you know what? That's fair. Because I'm only on the outside, they're on the inside. And when you're up against the unions and you're up against the state and you're up against lawsuits from the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, please vote for Michael Gates in November. When you're up against that, it's a lot more than people from the outside can see. So I get that maybe, and I don't really accept this, but I'm just in the spirit of trying to understand. I guess I can understand that the job is harder than you anticipated. The resistance is a lot more than you anticipated. And it's a careful needle to thread. You don't have as much power as people think you have. Okay, fair enough. If you are a Republican, then every time you have a mic in front of you, you need to be doing what James Mine did. You need to start every comment period with, this is what's going on in our district or our city or our, whatever your position is. I'm using school board as an example. This is what's going on. We have passed SB 179 or whatever this bill is, and it basically legalizes kidnapping. We can't change it. We just want you to know it's here. Or we don't have a parental notification policy for you people. We know that you have been protesting here for 3 years for it, and we know that you parents flipped this board for it, but here are the reasons why it's not being done right now. But we want you to know that you don't have one. And so if you want one, you're going to have to push harder for it, right? Like, you should at least be saying that this is going on. Well, I want you to know, as the Republican president of this school board, that we have lost 12,000 students. In the last 4 years, it's unacceptable, and we cannot protect the students properly in this school from the bathroom laws, from the whatever. You should be using your bully pulpit. If you can't change things, then you should at least talk about the things you say you can't change. And you should at least inform the people that these things are happening. And that's why I loved what James Mai did. That's why I loved it, because he just said, look, we're not talking about what we're spending. We're only talking about what we can take from the people. And that's not fair. And those conversations should not be separate. They should be had together, and the Irvine City Council is wanting to separate them. So God bless you, James Mai. Let's elect more James Mais. And if you don't know, if you're not sure if you have a James Mai on your city council where you live, go to a city council meeting. If you see one coming up for the budget, that's a really interesting one to sit in on. But your Republican representatives should be talking like that every time they have a microphone in front of them. I can't change everything, but I can tell you what's going on here. Your politicians should be telling you what's going on, even if they can't change it. I have all the sympathy in the world for our Republican school board and what they're up against. And I also understand I am not on the inside. I can only complain as someone who's seeing things from the outside. But first of all, any Republican politician that tells you we're doing stuff behind the scenes, reject that. That's a Democrat playbook. Democrats do things behind the scenes. Democrats have lack of transparency. We're supposed to be running on transparency. But second of all, don't let any Republican leader in government tell you, look, we're doing things behind the scenes, or we're overwhelmed here, and there's a structure here that we just can't. Okay, fine. Got it. Get it. I have sympathy for that, but then at least use your microphone to tell people what's happening. Just tell them. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Instead, Capital Unified School District actually wants to hire a social media director, which I don't think that's the position they're hiring for. It looks to me like what they want is a spokesperson. They want to rehab the image of Capital Unified, even though at this very moment there's no parental notification policy. Boys can still use the girls' bathrooms. Boys can still play on girls' teams, and we still have sexual assaults happening in our schools that have gone unaddressed. Also, we have grooming in our schools from teachers. We have teachers who have been arrested from our schools. Like, all this is still going on in our schools, and they want to hire a spokesperson. That's what I believe. That's my opinion. They're calling it social media director. I think it's a spokesperson to rehab the image of Capital Unified. They don't want to fix what's wrong in there. So instead of, it could go a long way to have the president of our board, Lisa Davis, at every meeting. Just open it up. She doesn't have to change anything. She doesn't have to be an effective legislator if she doesn't want to. All she has to do is inform parents, and she should use that microphone. Her clips should be viral, like Sonia Shah. She should use that microphone every time to say, here's what's going on in this district, and I can't change it for you, but I want you to know where your kids are at risk. That's all you have to do, and that takes no amount of courage at all, like none. Thank you, James Mai. All right, we're running out of time here. Let me see what I want to talk about next. Maybe this is a good time to go to number 6. This is Matt Duma on Instagram. I like this kid. I started following him because of the chemical trails stuff. Like, they're spraying the skies. I don't know if you've noticed where you are, but they're just... I've pretty much got my whole family in on this now, but it's hard not to notice once you notice. But we have had a lot of spraying going on, I think, since last year, actually. I noticed a pickup. Every now and then you'd see spraying, and some of it's cloud seeding. We do have cloud seeding programs. We used to call this conspiracy, and then somehow people just like let the cloud seeding stuff slide. Like, yeah, we have cloud seeding, but chemtrails are conspiracy. But that's what cloud seeding is. I was one of those people, but it has really picked up to the point where you can't help but notice. And particularly this summer, if you have a sunny day, you're going to notice streaks in the sky, and they're always going to be right over the sun. There's some kind of sun dimming. It's a Bill Gates thing. Anywho, that's neither here nor there. I might do a behind the paywall episode about that kind of stuff. Just about the weird stuff too. Like, there's just a lot of weird stuff going on that I am very interested in. I want to talk about, one of my favorite podcasts is Blurry Creatures, where we talk about all of the woo stuff of God's kingdom, the stuff that we've been trained to think is silly or fantasy. And so I want to talk about that, but I'll do that behind the paywall. Anyway, that's how I know Matt Duma, because he lives in San Diego, and he's been clocking that stuff, and he's been going, this is not okay. This stuff sits in the air, it spreads out, and then it just drips down. And you can see it if you pay attention to it. But he doesn't just talk about that. I guess he seems like a very nice young man. I actually really like this kid. But here he is. He says something about the future of California and what it means to be a Californian, a young Californian, and what exactly it is that you have to look forward to or don't have to look forward to. So I want to hear him, and then I'll break this down.
So the guy who was born and raised in California left for Texas to go to school and came back. I can no longer afford to live here. Okay. I make great money, dual income household. I will never be able to buy a house in the neighborhoods surrounding where I grew up. Okay. There are no homes here for under $1.5 million. And even at that, you're getting a fixer upper. I'm in the Orange County area. I don't want to live in California if I'm not close to the beach. So I'll do San Diego, Santa Barbara, anywhere in between there, Topanga, Malibu, I guess. But how are people living here when they're young? Is anyone buying houses actually? Curious to see who's making it happen, how they're making it happen, because I don't think I'll buy a house here for the next 30 years the way that this is going.
That is so sad. And it's pretty much for the course for all young people. I mean, I have 2 young people in my household. When my husband and I were my son's age, living in the Midwest, we were in our first home. I think what Matt is saying is it's really serious, and I wish older Californians would think about this as well. So we have been fighting for this Prop 13. Democrats are always trying to gut our Prop 13, which is a property tax protection that Californians voted for themselves, I think 20 years, or no, longer than that, 50 years ago, a long time ago, because of the way politicians kept raising our taxes. So Prop 13 protects the property taxes. And Democrats are always gutting it, and there was another measure to gut it. And so we have defeated that, and then there's another measure to prop up Prop 13. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Homeowners in California are always working on measures to protect Prop 13. And this time we barely got this one on the ballot, but it's on the ballot for November. But one of the issues that I've been telling people is that the young people, it's hard. The old people who fight for this stuff are dying. They're not going to be here much longer. And the young people don't own homes. And they have no hope of owning a home in California. People, that's the American dream. And the communist dream is corporate property. The communists don't want you to own your home. So it's no coincidence that home ownership in this state is nearly impossible for anyone under the age of 50. Matt, what you asked, what are other people doing? They're giving their children down payments for homes. They're helping their children with mortgages. And the people who aren't in the middle class, who haven't earned their way, like people like me, we didn't come here when California was buildable. We came here when it started to go on the decline. So we're not even in the class of people then who built our business and built an empire and built a nice nest, and then we can share that with our kids. We're not even in, and we're like most people in California. There is a certain class of people who they're not uppity and they're not rich because somebody gave it to them. They're wealthy because they got in on the ground floor of California and they earned their money. And then they were able to retire before the government could start taking everything. And so the way that people afford houses, I've learned this in my cozy little suburb. I've learned this is that the way that young people afford houses is their parents give them homes or give them down payments for homes. Completely unsustainable in America. That's not how it's supposed to be. So that's that California. It's not just that we have homelessness and crime. We have a hope deficit here. We will never change the future of this state if we can't make home ownership affordable. And it's not in subsidies. It's not in giving kids money to buy $1.5 million homes. It's in lowering the cost of building, taxes, and the absurd cost of living in this state so that home ownership is reasonable. We have a hope deficit. And as long as we let our politicians get away with stealing from us, and then calling us idiots for noticing, we're not going to change it. So, Matt, I don't know what your politics are. You say you're here in Orange County. I'm going to guess they're pretty close to mine. But, Matt, if you want to change that, if you want to know how are we looking forward to buying a home here, we're not. What we're looking forward to is changing the politics so then we can change the landscape for you to be able to afford a home. So, Matt, and I think Matt's pretty active there online. He doesn't seem like an idiot, so I don't know if you have been. But if you haven't been, Matt, get to a city council meeting where you live. Get to a board of supervisors meeting in Orange County or in San Diego, where you say you're from. Get to a board of supervisors meeting, hear what your local politicians are saying, and then start talking to your friends and family about voting differently. And start being a part of political change, which I follow you, so I think you are. But I just want this message is for everybody out there. We have a hope deficit. We've got to save the future of the state for our kids. We have to create a state where they feel like they're going to own a home and settle a family, because that's what makes America great. That's what makes us. And that's why the left and the communists are always trying to destroy the family. They're always trying to make parents the enemy, drive a wedge between parents and students, make it impossible for a nuclear family to survive here, punish good Christians who want to adopt or want to foster, punish them for not signing up for the LGBTQ agenda, punish you for having a large car that can accommodate a large family, punish you for wanting to live on a plot of land that can accommodate a family, punish you for wanting to grow your own garden, grow your own food, have your own animals, punish you for wanting to drink raw milk, punish you, punish you, punish you. They're punishing the family because the family is what will destroy the state right? The family destroys the power of the state by putting that power in the hands of family. The state, let me remind you, California, for many of you out there, this is not a reminder. This is the first time you're hearing it. Government is not here to bestow your rights, to give them or to take them away, even to adjudicate them. Government is here to protect your rights. You already have your rights. You're born with them. It's right there in the Constitution. All men are created equal. And I don't want to hear your bullshit comeback about Kira when they wrote that didn't apply to black people. We had to change the Constitution to add black. No, we didn't. We didn't have to do any of that, actually. We really didn't. And we shouldn't have, because it caused a whole heap of mess down the road. Black people have never had to fight for our constitutional rights. We've always had our constitutional rights. We've had to fight to get our rights restored because a bunch of Democrats took them away. And Democrats are still trying to take away rights from black people. Still. We never had to, I'll repeat that. We have never had to fight for our constitutional rights. We have always had to fight to have them restored. We were born with our constitutional rights. We were born with those rights. You are born with those rights. You do not ask the government for those rights. You are born with them. You are born kings and queens, and the government protects that status for you. That's the purpose of government. And when you start looking at it like that, you're going to look at government a lot differently. And these people will change when what you demand of them changes. So get to your city council meetings. All right, last clip. I want to play this last one, Scott, and then we're going to say goodbye because I think this is a perfect clip to end on. This is this young country music artist, number 5. And I thought it was perfect. Doom scrolling and came across him. I can't remember his name. What's his name? Say here, Emmanuel 33. I looked him up. I clicked on his profile. It says he's a country music artist. And, well, why don't we just play what he had to say, and then I'll comment afterwards. Go ahead.
So, why you taking pictures with all of those white folks? You seem like you're trying to change and all this stuff. Bro, y'all don't even support me. Like, no funny. I'm not even trying to be funny or nothing. Like, but I'm really getting tired of, like, my people. Like, I love y'all to death. Love y'all, bro. But y'all do not support nobody. Y'all don't support nothing positive, bro. So stop calling me, telling me I'm switching up. No, I am loving on people that's loving on me. Like, what is wrong with y'all? Like, bro, get it through y'all. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know what I'm saying? I done did so many free shows and tried to put on for the black folk and all of that, bro. I done did all of this for my folk. And guess what? None of y'all are following or coming. So what do you want me to do? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's twos and fews here and there. But, bro, y'all can't be mad at me because I'm loving on who loving on me. Man, y'all better get on somewhere with that, bro. This is 2026. Ain't no more black and white and all that, bro. Grow up. What's wrong with y'all folk, man?
This is 2026. Ain't no black and white and all that stuff. And that's how I feel. That's how I feel in 2026. I believe in, and again, you go back and you listen to my own podcast, just listen to yourself. All the episodes are available over on FCB Network. You'll hear me talk a lot about race and let's figure this out and blah, blah, blah. But I think in 2026, that conversation is just about dead. And as I have been saying, this is no longer about left versus right, black versus white, any of that stuff. Those are all lies. That was all a trick. That's the Matrix telling you who you're supposed to hate and why. Because the elites get to keep doing what they're doing as long as we're at each other's throat. So it's no longer about black versus white, left versus right. It is loving on people who love on you. It is loving on Americans who love America and love that you're American too. Americans, we're the family, we're the tribe. We're the race, Americans. And any American that wants to join with me, I don't care. And I know you feel the same. If you're a great American, and I know if you're listening to this and you've hung in there, you are. if you're like me, you don't care about that stuff. It's not that race doesn't matter or culture doesn't matter. That's not what we're saying. Those things matter because they have value for your experience and who you are. And as I always have said, perspective is everything. And you have to have a different perspective. Like God's kingdom is colorful and beautiful and diverse. Diverse meaning, not meaning multiculturalism, diverse, but diverse meaning colorful, bright, varied. That's God's kingdom. And so we don't all want to be the same or worship the same or look the same, but we want to be of the same tribe. That's why I love the tribe of Christ, right? And I was explaining to my dentist one day, she's Hindu, and she was like, well, do Christians marry outside their race? That's what she asked me. Do Christians marry outside their race? I said, we don't have racial restrictions as Christians, but we do have religious restrictions. I'm very aware that many Christians marry outside their religion, but you're not supposed to. The Bible's very clear about that. That's being unequally yoked. And so the official position of Christians is that we don't marry by race. Our race is our tribe is our Lord, right? And that's what's great about being a Christian. It's kind of what's great about being American too, is our tribe is not limited to race, or it's not even limited to, the way you worship, or, if you wear dresses to church or pants to church, but it's based on your patriotism. The tribe of America is based on your patriotism. The tribe of Christianity is based on your worship, who you worship. We worship the Trinity, God, the Father, Holy Spirit, and Son. And that's that's our tribe. And so it doesn't matter if you're from India. It doesn't matter if you have black hair, blonde hair, if you're black or white or Hispanic. It doesn't matter if you eat chitlins or only eat vegan, locally sourced groceries. Like, if you love the Lord, you're in the tribe. If you love America, you're in the tribe. Immigrants, if you love America, you're in the tribe. It's real easy. It's real easy. That's who we are. And that's what this young man was saying. And that's what he was saying. I make music because I want people to love what they hear. I want people to be entertained, and I want to bring joy. And so I'm going to be with the people who get the most out of my music, and Black people aren't supporting that. And he's right. Look at what we are supporting in our communities. It's filthy. It's degraded. It's disgusting. I'm not going to let Cardi B, who from time to time she is an intelligent woman who's been dealt a pretty bad hand. And I think she took the options that were available to her, and I think she regrets that now. Anyways, I don't want Cardi B to lecture me about how we're supposed to see America. You're not even from America. I don't want her to lecture me about how America is supposed to be. Well, she's got a song and how Black America is supposed to be treated, and her song, Wet Ass Kitty Cat, is like a #1 hit, and the kids are singing it. It's not just music, folks. There are no neutral acts. It means something. Look at what we're putting into the Black community. It's degraded and perverted and negative and violent. And gee whiz, what are our kids like? For the most part, not my kids. Not my kids. My kids are American. They're not Black American. They're not Christian American. My kids are American. And that's how they behave. Like Americans. Everybody, let's behave like Americans, especially this year, 250. Let's behave like Americans. Let's have the backyard fights. Let's have the flyovers, right? Let's wear our red, white, and blue. My wardrobe is coordinated red, white, and blue for the summer. Let's wear our red, white, and blue. Let's wear our America hats out there. Let's stop wherever we are when we hear the anthem. Put our hand over our hearts and stop and pay attention to it. Let's lead people in that. People don't do that anymore. Be the person who stops when you hear the anthem, puts your hand over your heart, and waits for it to finish. Be the person who participates in the pledge wherever you see it. Be the person who extols the values and the virtues of our great country, led by great men and women over the years, led by not so great men and women, but it is still here. It is still standing after 250 years. This is a year to celebrate as a tribe. So to my American tribe, God bless America. Aren't we blessed to be here? Thank God for our president. Thank God for our armed services who serve our nation and keep us as free as possible for as long as possible. And thank God for you, patriotic Americans who put America first, God first, family first. It's been a pleasure to be with you today. Go out there and serve your country today. Get to a city council meeting. Thank you, James Mai. And don't forget that sunlight is the best disinfectant. So go out there and shine a light. Peace out.